Environment is at the core of our work in Colombia. We combat climate change and mitigate its impacts by reducing deforestation, supporting renewable energy, and protecting the country's rich biodiversity and natural resources. While important, it requires bold leadership and firm commitments from those in high government to rural communities, and we are honored to stand with them and proud to be their partner. We work closely with Afro-Colombians and indigenous communities, populations that have been disproportionately affected by decades of violence, to build hope and opportunity. Our work with them on climate change is central to those efforts. For example, they generate carbon credits and sell them on domestic and international markets by keeping their forests pristine. Through our work in renewables, we're reducing energy costs, creating jobs, and powering schools and clinics across rural Colombia. And while the narrative on Colombia too often breaks in the direction of violence, the reality is that the country took an enormous leap of faith by opting to negotiate its way out of conflict and toward an inclusive peace. And we're often reminded that the environment is the best friend of peace, because peace is more than reconciliation between warring factions. It's also about safeguarding the environment. As we support Colombia's efforts to turn the page from over 50 years of violent conflict, climate change remains one of the greatest threats to peace and security, which is at the center of Colombians' hopes and dreams. Mitigating its impact is, as Colombians would say, impajaritable. In other words, yesterday was too late. Communities along the Pacific coast have demonstrated that fighting against deforestation and climate change is possible even in the most challenging scenarios. They've endured decades of unimaginable violence and a long history of inequality. But despite it all, these communities have been able to unite around a common bond to better manage natural resources and prevent deforestation, protecting more than 500,000 hectares of forests and endangered species. It is the concept of interconnectedness that is so critical, because the hope for a better future is dependent upon an environment that flourishes. It's a tragedy that forests are disappearing, as they're home to such a rich biodiversity and irreplaceable tapestry of life. And since there's no planet B that I'm aware of, that is why now is the moment to double down on our efforts to combat climate change. So today, we hope that you'll join us in honoring the many ways the planet's forests and lands benefit us all. Let's think about what we can all do together to right some of these wrongs and to chart a new route to safeguard vital habitats that provide fresh air and rainfall not only for Colombians, but for the entire planet. Because as Colombians would say, todos vivimos bajo el mismo techo. We all live under the same roof.